And we're live! Hello and welcome to a special episode of Hex Therapy Live with Maddie ALLin and Nerd Girl 007. Welcome.
Hi everyone. Hi Maddie, thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. What brings you here?
So I reached out to you like last week, I think today, and I was like, Maddie, I need to be therapized. Can I come on Hex Therapy Live? And you were like, yes. So
Of course.
Here I am.
Awesome. Well, we're going to get into it. Let's run the intro and we'll start.
Okay.
So, where should we begin?
I don't know. That's a good question. Where you're the therapist. Do you guide, or do you want me to like tell you what's been going on?
Yeah, so I know that you have been in crypto for a long time, and so you're very wise when it comes to crypto, but there's a lot more to you in terms of your intellectual pursuits in psychology. You're trained in social psychology. You have specialized in crypto tribalism.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's all extremely fascinating to me. And so I'm hoping that you can maybe share some of your insights, things that you think might be constructive for the community. Is that kind of what you wanted to cover?
So what I was saying is like, I feel almost like bad complaining or saying like things haven't been good, because like lately things really like have been overall positive in my life. Like my work, things are going awesome at work. Discourse Syndicate is like growing. My personal following is growing along with it. Like my life is kind of good. I really don't have that much to complain about, but it's really hard for me. Like every time, it feels like every time there's like a new batch of hexicans or pulsicans, those people, I think, immediately start to feel like very maximalist and like tribal, and maybe like it's a trying to overcompensate for being newer. I'm not sure. But like it feels like every time there's a new batch of those people, I start getting like all kinds of crap on Twitter or on YouTube for being different. Like, because, from the outset, like I got involved with Hex studying Hex as one of the cases of like a marginalized, society within cryptocurrency. And one of the things that I said from the outset was like, I didn't want to do just Hex content, because that would minimize the like, what I've always done has been sort of establishing relationships or, studying the relationships between groups. And if I went like Hex only, not only would that minimize, the number of people who would be interested in what I was saying, but it would also like drive away people who have been part of my, previous studies. And I don't think that it would be very productive. Like, so I've always, when Discourse Syndicate asked me to start streaming on the network, the first thing that I said was, well, do I have to do Hex only content? And, they're like, it doesn't make sense for you. Like we want it to be Hex centric, but that doesn't mean that you can't talk to people. And so that was where I came up with and so I've like thought about it for a night. What's the name of the show going to be? And then I came up with the idea that the show was going to be called Building Bridges, because the show was specifically about, establishing relationships with people from other communities, so that there could be like doors of communication open, so that people from those communities can feel like they can come and ask questions without being attacked, and vice versa.
And people, having open-mindedness, I think on both sides, to some people that's scary, right? Because it could, threaten their system or allow them to get information that conflicts, right? With, because if you say, I'm in the best cryptocurrency that I know of, and then somebody comes along and says, well, I am too, and it's a different kind, then now you know, some people start to question themselves, and other people get offended, whether subconsciously or consciously, and then have kind of I guess a need to react or tear down or take shortcuts to kind of debate or, you know, whatever. And maybe part of that is people having stakes, right? Like being a stakeholder in something makes you want that to succeed because that's kind of part of you. It's part of your bag.
Sure, and I totally get that. Like, I'm not trying to say that like nobody should be rooting for the asset that they're holding. Like, so for me, at this point, like 80% of my stack is Hex and Pulse, mostly because of its appreciation relative to everything else. But like, so I would never convert that last 20%. And my reason for that is that I know that holding a single asset is what makes maximalism occur. Like that's what creates it. Because if you're only holding one thing, then of course you're only holding one thing. Like of course you're only rooting for one thing to succeed. But here's the thing. I can understand like people wanting to be maximalist with their own money because they're like, this is the thing that's going to appreciate the most. So I think that people should be free to do whatever they want with their own money. But forcing those beliefs onto other people is like where I would draw the line at. Like that's where things become unhealthy and toxic. And you know, like, because I mean, here's the thing. I get you're worried that hearing another person's point of view may challenge your own, but like, I mean, so that's how Bitcoin maximalism happens when they block everyone who talks about anything except for Bitcoin. And if you had been a Bitcoin maximalist this cycle, you would have missed out on major, major gains, not just from if you were holding Hex, but if you were holding other assets as well. So I'm not for it, you know, and I get. But so when I have people from other communities on, it's not because I want to sell anyone that asset. Like I do, you know, everyone gets a chance to like pitch their piece. That's called reciprocity. Like it's people come in and they're talking to me and I'm asking them questions that, you know, is essentially somewhat of a pitch for Hex, you know, and they get, you know, 30 minutes or an hour of that. So of course I give them time to pitch their product or project because that's how relationships get built. But that doesn't mean that I'm advocating for other people to like sell their Hex and buy it. Like I've never ever said that, never. I've only like given people access to information. With what they do with that is up to them. So like, I don't know, when it like this comes up every once in a while, and like lately it's been coming up again, and it's been like really hard hitting where people are like, oh, Nicole should be kicked off of Discourse Syndicate. She's not a real Hexican. And I'm like, one, you've been here for a week. I've been here from the beginning. And like, I don't know how I'm not a real Hexican because I'm not 100% Hex and Pulse. Like that's not what makes someone, you know, and like, it definitely like it hurts my feelings.
And so tell me more about how that bothered you particularly.
Well, I mean, I guess like it bothers me when people say stuff like that I'm a paid shill. So like that's been one, like, oh, you know, yeah, Nerd Girl's just a paid shill. She's not a real Hexican. I'm like, I'm not a paid shill. I work for a crypto marketing company. I'm very open about that. I don't deny that in any way. Every time I've ever had someone on the show who was a client, like one of my, you know, one of LDA's clients, I've said up front, this is one of LDA's clients. So I am technically billing for this time that we're on the air, but that does not mean that this is a pitch. It's just, this is my, you know, like I'm doing some combination work. And
I know you to be somebody who is extremely ethical, right? And is somebody who really cares a lot about your own reputation, about the quality of your work. Like you're awesome, right? Everybody who knows you in the Hex community, and I'm sure outside of the Hex community, like, you know, would vouch for you. So, it is really hard when people come and like start making those accusations. Cause I'm like, I'm really, really like
direct about what it is. Like if there's somebody that's paid to be on the show, or that I am being paid to, you know, like they're on the show because of like they're part of work, I tell you that up front. And even and I never shill anything. I just ask questions, and then if people want to ask more questions, that's on them, you know?
This kind of gets into another topic that I was hoping I might be able to talk to somebody about at some point, which is, you know, how broadcasters such as ourselves can get poisoned by bad actors in our audiences. I think that, you know, I've experienced, right, seeing disturbing or, you know, attacking, right, words or, you know, other attempts at, you know, taken away from my attention on the stream, right? People hitting us with inappropriate bots that say vulgar things, right? That the moderators have to get rid of. And so this, to me, it seems like, you know, a very relevant topic of how can all of the Hex streamers and all the members in the Hex community like maintain their own mental health when when we are an attack vector, right? Like in a sense that people kind of coming after us to ruin our mood or to make us feel bad, right? Like there can be people out there that are just saying whatever they think will hurt us, not what they think is true. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there definitely are people who do that. So there's someone in the comments right now who's saying no one is forcing. Her reaction to having no control over others is the issue she should be facing. I don't really think so. Like, I'm not trying to control others. I just don't think that other people should be able to control me.
Would you say you're simply like talking about your reaction to how you see people kind of being destructive instead of constructive, or?
Yeah, and so like I guess that's what. But so here's the thing is that so people, you know, within the Hex community, there are a lot of like anti-Bitcoin, you know, Bitcoin maximalism, but the same exact thing is happening within Hex, like because if the trend is to chastise anyone who talks about anything other than Hex and say that they're not a real member of the Hex community because they talk about, you know, other things, that's exactly the same thing that Bitcoin maximalists did. That's exactly how Bitcoin got to the way that it is.
That is a really insightful point, and it, you know, it kind of reminds me that you've been in crypto for a long time. Can you speak to that? Because I know that you're probably looking at this and seeing where it ends up, and so you're reacting to that instead of what people are seeing now, which they have an incomplete understanding of, perhaps.
Right. So I've been in crypto since 2016, like right around the time of the Ethereum DAO hack, which was, you know, like very, very early in the life cycle of Ethereum. And, you know, like it caused a major price drop for several months. And that's what caused the Ethereum ETC, ETH hard fork. So like that's where Ethereum Classic split from Ethereum, and like that's where code is law comes from. So that is like, that instance is what not only made me interested in buying Ethereum, which was my first cryptocurrency, it was also what made me interested in studying divisions within cryptocurrency. Okay, so I guess I should go back a little bit before, in case there are people who don't know like my whole story. And before I got into cryptocurrency, I was a graduate student in religious studies, and I was studying rogue implementations of vigilante justice for crimes of apostasy in Iran. So I was like studying societies who you know, like wanted to implement death penalty punishments for those who converted away from what they believe was the true practice of Islam. So when I saw very similar things happening within cryptocurrency, and some people will, you know, like argue that nothing similar is happening within cryptocurrency. But when you—
Are you kidding me?
Like, no,
that sounds identical.
Yeah, no, it is. It is when you essentially like chastise, like oust someone, professionally murder someone for believing or, for investing with what they want to do with their money into a different coin, possibly in addition to your coin, like that's killing someone. It's professional murder. I don't know, and so when I saw that happening within cryptocurrency, so the first thing that I did was like buy all of it that I could, right? And then, get everyone that I knew to buy everything that they could. And then the next thing that I did was go to my the university that I had dropped out of a couple of years earlier to talk to some of the members of my board. And I was like, yeah, I'm not in school anymore. So this is kind of just like me doing this for fun, like for, myself. And like asking them to help me structure a study for crypto tribes. And so a lot of them thought that I was crazy, that I had like joined a cult, and I was like, whatever, like I'm doing this. So one of my professors helped me kind of come up with a structure and a plan. And that's what I did. So that's when I started like sort of getting immersed into different, crypto tribes and learning about their behaviors and the histories and what had happened. And it's not just that like with the like maximalism that I'm seeing here that, I've heard about it historically. It's that like I've lived through it generating. Like I know how.
Yeah, this is 100% overlapped and became your life's work.
Yep.
Wow. And so what month and year did you make that leap where you started working with a professor?
That was in September of 2016.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So you weren't just like, reading the occasional headline of crypto at that time. You were all in.
Yeah. Yep. And cool. Like when I say all in, I don't mean like with all my money. I mean like, with all my money, but also like with
energy
my life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. And so being an expert on crypto tribalism, right? At a very high level for 5 years now, right? Mm-hmm. That must give you a lot of insights, and then it must be pretty difficult to communicate that with people who are brand new that have very little understanding of all the things you do.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think that I know more about cryptocurrency necessarily than like I know more about one specific area within cryptocurrency. There are definitely people who have a much more technical understanding,
I would push back and say that when people really look at what crypto is and when you study everything that Richard says, everything that Antonopoulos says, everything that, all these different people are saying, at least for me, it seems like money is a socially enforced belief system or a social belief system, shared, right? And so the social aspect of tribalism, I would argue, is probably one of the most important technical topics because it speaks to the psychology and behavior of the market, which is what creates a price and an asset. And
like really interestingly, I also use my like knowledge of people's behavioral patterns to determine the market. So like a lot of people will look at the charts, to determine, like look for TA to determine,
sure.
But like I don't look at charts because that's not how I recognize patterns. I look at behavior, like the people who are actually living it and, depending on their cryptocurrency gains or losses. So like, what's really funny is I actually I sold my Bitcoin at the second time that it hit 62. So it was like 2 days before Richard called the top at like 64.5.
Wow. Yeah. You have the trade to back it up. And I know you've spoken before about one example of a strategy that fits into this kind of social psychology model is that you actually know of people that message you and their calls are so bad that you use them buying into something as the sign for you to sell it.
Yeah.
Right?
So I have counter trades. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. People who I counter trade. Yeah. Yeah.
That
So I
seems
have a
like a good
friend. I have a
example.
friend who's a VC. I have a friend who's a VC, and his calls are like consistently horrible. I mean, like I think that he does well because he gets in on like private rounds and seed rounds and all that stuff. But like if he were just a market trader, he would be done. So like every time that I talk to him, I'll be talking about something controversial. Like initially, like with Hex, he's like, no, that's a Ponzi. It's for sure a scam. You're not going to make any money. And then like throughout the year, throughout the last year and a half or 2 years, however long it's been, I've been checking in with him periodically. And finally, a few days ago, he was like, like I understand everything about Hex now. And I was talking about this on like a stream with the like late night Aussie stream. That he's like, I know everything about Hex now. I probably know more than you do. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, so just out of curiosity, like, I was like, so that it's been like almost 2 years that I've been like studying this, right? He's like, time means nothing. And I was like, yeah, you just said I understand everything about Hex, and then time means nothing in the same sentence. So forgive me if I completely discredit you.
Because Hex monetizes the time value of money.
Exactly. So, and then there were several other things. Like he's like, no, because he was telling me like, tell me you didn't fall for that sacrificing for pulse crap. And I was like, well, excuse me, why not? And he's like, well, because you can get free pulse. And I was like, yeah. But like, he's like, you'll get free pulse for all of your ERC20s. And I was like, actually, no, you'll get free PRC20 for your, ERC20, but you're not getting pulse. Like you don't get free pulse. He's like, yeah, but then you just trade your PRC20 into pulse, free money. I was like, well, you can do that anyway. And also, and like, he was just going on and every single thing that he said was wrong. And I'm like, like, I was like, honestly, like the end of our conversation was just me saying like, after me consistently proving that I'm better able to predict the market than you are for like their last 5 years, why do you think that I would ever listen to your advice ever again?
The arrogance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. The behavioral patterns I definitely think are important, but there are certainly things that I don't understand that I should probably.
Do you have any other examples of strategies or patterns that you look at like that, where you have a counter trade?
Yeah, so I do look for signs of people like displaying sudden wealth syndrome. So like emotional outbursts that don't really make sense. Like that's something that will cause me to want to sell the asset. Like especially when it's not limited to 1 or 2 people, but has like really started to spread.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah, and that tells you to do more research on that, or to sell it, or what? To sell. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah. When people are just like really unnecessarily emotional, then like it doesn't matter as long as it's just like showing an erratic behavior. So it could be really positive or it could be really, negative displays, but like that's out of the norm.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so if multiple individuals are acting more rowdy than they normally would.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Then, I mean, because then you can like kind of, I guess it depends. It depends on like how much you know about what coins everyone is invested in. But, if there are people who are specific to one community and you start seeing a lot of that, then like, yeah, you sell that asset.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's one that I definitely look for. What told me like with Bitcoin, it was that, and then it was also, looking like I looked at the chart in conjunction with the behaviors that I was noticing, and I saw some stuff there that also made me want to sell.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, that's quite an accurate prediction this time. Were you as accurate in the past?
I've had
I'm
getting better. Like it definitely, the skills have started to improve, but I've made some very good calls.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I guess that's why I was asking, kind of in, for you to share some of your expertise and your history, because I think that this helps us understand, right? Like what your reaction is as a leader whenever there are people who are straggling so far behind, maybe in terms of their exposure to, understanding of the social side of things. I don't think that cryptos are explained to people, or money is explained to people as a social construct.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it takes us having this type of conversation, right, to even get into that subject area and to really understand it from that perspective. Because for me, I know it can be very frustrating if I can see something in the future that I'm highly certain of, which is not everything, it's not all the time, but and then if I try to communicate that to people and it doesn't go over well, or they don't agree with me, like, there's some barrier for my communication. There's some reason why I can't like convince them, or I can't explain to the level of certainty that I have. And then I like to say, I feel like I have one foot in the future and one foot in the past, and I'm just kind of having to stay patient with others and to stay humble and grounded. But what you're talking about is really, it's bigger than you, and I think that you're concerned about this idea that you've probably seen in Bitcoin and in Ethereum to some extent.
Bitcoin, I've seen it in Ethereum, I've seen it in XRP. Like, so
people keep rebuilding.
Yeah.
They keep rebuilding the broken systems that have existed before. Is that right?
Yeah. And I mean, so to some degree, like, those technologies are all somewhat broken, where like Hex is not broken. So I can understand why there might be that like disconnect, because they're like, well, those are broken technologies. So yeah, if the communities break, of course they break, where like Hex will always work. Like, I get why there's that distinction, but like, a technology only works, is only valuable if people are using it. And it's only going to increase in value with like more people coming to the realization that Hex is actually a functional technology. And if people are put off by the behaviors of the group, then then the behaviors, like, then people will not join. There will not be more people coming in. There will not be people buying, and we'll not see the price appreciation.
Yes, yes. You are hurting your own bags when you aren't giving an attitude, or like giving it a social environment that's welcoming, or when you're actively attacking other communities, you really have to consider, how does that affect people's behavior, and is that allowing people to buy or sell? That's really interesting. So as you were saying that, it made me think, so just like you can take a good technology, right, and like expect it to get adoption, and it doesn't always do that, but also with a broken technology like Bitcoin or Ethereum, they can continue to be successful as long as they have the social capital, the social stickiness, right?
Yep. And so yeah, I mean, so someone asked, what are my feelings about Pulse? So that's like even more specifically why it's really important that we maintain relationships with other groups. So if we want, assets and, projects and everything to use Pulse to launch on, and we do, right? Because we need transactions on the network, because the more transactions that there are on the network, the more, other things will want to come over and be a part of it. But if people believe that, everyone who's going to be using Pulse is a Hex maximalist and is going to like, boo anything else, then why in the world would they subject themselves to that? Like, why?
Yeah. I mean, it stops people from being confident in the product, and I'm not sure if that's part of the plan or the game theory of launching the coin, knowing that only for the majority, only people who believe in Richard will be the ones who are buying Pulse. And so even though Pulse is being offered, it was offered freely to anybody, whether they had Hex or not, there were certainly advantages to being a Hexagon, having had the lived experience of using a product that Richard had made that was, continues to be so successful.
Yeah.
That creates an unfair advantage for hexagons in reality.
Well, I mean,
right?
plus hexagons had, the most gains from the, year before.
Oh,
so
yeah.
they were able to sacrifice the most, really. So, but like that advantage exists everywhere, right? So like when Ethereum launched, like Bitcoiners, of course, had the clear advantage.
Do you think Hex changes people?
I don't know. So most of the people who I know within Hex are people who I know from them being in Hex, not people who I've known from before. So I guess there are a few people who like joined, bought into Hex because of me representing it. And I don't really know if those people have changed. I think that most of those people are like the moderates,
I guess I'm thinking in terms of like delayed gratification and kind of being rewarded for positive behaviors.
Right,
I would expect like people's behavior to like kind of subconsciously change for a while until maybe they have an aha moment, or maybe they, just all of a sudden it fits, they're able to label it and be aware of, certain benefits that they've had, which, could be a lot of different things.
Yeah, so I think that a lot of people, that Hex has changed a lot of people's lives for the better, right? Like there are people who have talked about like not being suicidal anymore, or
multiple people.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely. Definitely Hex can change people.
And do you think that it's because of the smart contract and incentivizing long-term behavior as opposed to just being a crypto that makes you rich?
Yeah, well, and it's giving people something to look forward to. So like, you've got a bag that's out here 5 years. That's something, not just something to look forward to, it's something to live for.
One of the things that I see is really different in Hex that makes me very bullish is that really there's no other coin that has so many people who are so motivated to make sure that the coin is valuable in the future. So because you're locked in, it's kind of like, my example would be, what if Hex broke tomorrow, right? And then we all had to spend 4 years fixing it. Like we would do that because we have an interest in it, right?
Yeah, sure.
So I think that is maybe underestimated in general among people who don't appreciate the social psychology of crypto markets as much. Even as a participant in Hex, people can not realize what it means to be in a 15-year relationship with a financial product that's decentralized.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, I think Hex's strength or resiliency during pullbacks is really evidence of that. Like that at this point, like we've got 2 years of data showing that when the rest of the market is going down, Hex is either holding or going or gaining.
Yeah.
And and that should, like, that right there has been enough to convince a lot of people. There have been people who were very, very skeptical or very, very anti-Hex early on, who have really watched and studied and looked at the outside and said, okay, this product is strong, if only because of the number of people who are staked for 15 years or 10 years or whatever.
Right on.
Yeah.
Now, kind of getting back to the first thread that we opened, I mean, what do you recommend to people, or what other insights do you have about what to do if they're looking for ways to participate, if they've enjoyed starting fights on Twitter? I know I've talked to some people to try to understand why they do that, and they say that it's fun, or that it like satisfies something inside of them to like piss other people off. I don't feel that myself. But
there have been times where like I like to trigger people on Twitter, but it's not like really I want to start a fight. It's like just, I don't know, kind of, but like it's like my friends, like kind of fun to play with them a little bit. Like I don't know why. Like so yeah. So I understand like trolling to some degree. And like I troll a lot, but I troll like everyone, where like I'll just post something that's like offensive.
Sure.
So like I understand that instinct. Okay, what would my advice be for people who want to get involved? That was one of your questions, right?
Well, so like, let's take that for example. Like, you enjoy joking around, but what if somebody thought, what if that got, real too quick or something? What if that pissed a bunch of people off? Like.
Yeah, so I think that there's like kind of that there's a pretty big difference between like joking, trolling, someone, and like really going after someone like on a personal level. And that probably the difference is that when you're trolling someone, you're just saying things that are funny that like really wouldn't hurt someone. And when you're really, really trying to, when you're, I don't know, I would say like beyond trolling, or when you're, I don't know, I guess negatively trolling someone, then you're like trying to find the things that are going to upset them, like trying to intentionally push their buttons.
Yeah, getting your buttons pushed. And then, so what would you say to those people who like to push our buttons? Like, what would your advice be?
My advice really would be like, try not to upset the people who are forward facing and like making content, because those people are very like in the public's eye, and those are potentially the people who are portraying, what it is to be involved with Hex, to be involved with Pulse, to be involved with cryptocurrency. And if they're not like up to not at their top game, not on their game because they're upset about something, like that can be a bad look.
I would say go pick on somebody else.
Yeah, go pick on somebody else. Go pick on someone who yeah.
But when there are people pushing our buttons and our community finds out about that, that creates kind of like a Romeo and Juliet thing where just families are fighting forever, blowing back at each other, right?
Yeah.
So how do we turn the other cheek? Do we continue to do these forms of education?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess like, yeah, it really is like at some point it's just got to be like thicker skin, not let that kind of stuff bother you, because it's just the bigger everyone's, audience grows, the more they're going to get that kind of thing. Also, if you guys are like trolling people, I would just like, not that everyone's going to listen, right? But like, just my suggestion, if you want to troll people from within your own community, maybe you would consider using an alt account that doesn't have the branding associated with it.
Yeah. So not the Hex brand, you mean?
Yeah, so people who have like Hex or Pulse in their names and pictures and stuff, like maybe if you're trolling and you're not really like trying to hurt people and you're not trying to cause a fight within your community, maybe the best solution would be to use an account that doesn't have that. Sorry, that's my dog. He's coughing.
It could be a psyop. Yeah, go fly a different flag when you're trolling people. Pretend like you're a Bitcoiner and then give them a bad name instead of us.
Right, yeah, please.
Oops. Wait, is that, I don't know, is that fair game or is that bad advice?
Well, maybe just, yeah, like maybe just, thanks, Darton. Yeah, thank you. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe just don't do that if you're like really a member of the community and you don't want to cause division. But and then there's also things like there are productive ways of having conversations that don't have to be like name calling and.
Okay. Yeah. So there are ways to joke around without hurting somebody. If you want to pick on somebody, then maybe we can talk about, people's, people who pick on others, like usually it's because they've had some hardship early in their life, because they feel like they're not getting a fair deal in life. And so there are therapy topics there, that can be covered, and that they really do make a difference, right? Like people who are bullies, right? They're oftentimes, trying to heal themselves. and
Right.
that's not the way to do it. And so it's a very self-defeating game that gets played, and moods can be contagious, right? So when we come on and we're in a good mood, that can brighten other people's day. But then when we get negative feedback, then that can decrease our energy. And so one thing that I've found as a streamer that really brightens my day is just having random people in the community reach out to me and just say something encouraging. And so just to let you all know, whether I respond or not, sometimes I'll even see the beginning of a message and I'll just like save it for like a bad day, and then I'll go in and read it. And it's like, it's not like I'm avoiding this person, but it's like, they're just, your positivity, it helps us, it reflects from us to you, to us. And so that's another way that I've found.
So there's like
I try to keep my sanity.
There's a tool that I should like put in my toolkit, then like saving messages and then opening them when I'm feeling bad.
Yeah. Like marking it as unread when it's already read or something. Yeah, like there's lots of ways that sometimes I can, and I could probably do that more too. Is like circle back to ones that, or keep a folder of snapshots of like really positive things that people have said. And that'd be cool.
Yeah, there's a good idea. All right. Thanks for the therapy.
And yeah. I mean, that's part of our, emotional first aid kit, right? And one of the things that I found really helps a lot of people, and why I started practicing what I preach, because like they don't really teach that. Actually, in clinical psychology grad school, they kind of teach you to not take care of yourself. And so when I started practicing what I preached, after a couple of years of practice, seeing people really get better, that made me really respect and understand deeper the relationship between how we talk about ourselves and how we take care of ourselves. And so what I call walking the walk and talking the talk at the same time. And this is a strategy that I've used in therapy to help people change negative subconscious beliefs about themselves. Negative subconscious beliefs are really hard to deal with cognitively. You can get angry and shut down your prefrontal cortex, and then that stops you from beating yourself up sometimes. There are a number of weird things like that where anger is actually adaptive in this slight domain, except all these side effects where it ruins your relationships and stuff. But a lot of people are walking around with I think with low self-esteem. And so what I would say to that is that self-esteem is an action verb. It's something you do, not something you have. And so when you do self-esteem, that's when you praise yourself, compliment yourself, or speak highly of yourself. And that's an active activity. And so one homework assignment, I might give somebody is tell Siri to remind you each day to say something nice about yourself, right? To compliment yourself. And so when people get in the habit of doing that, that's talking the talk. And then walking the walk is when people are taking care of themselves behaviorally. So whether you're brushing your teeth or giving yourself a new hairstyle, or just cooking your favorite meal, doing a pleasurable activity, right, that's non-addictive, these are things that people can do to take care of yourself. Now, the self-care by itself, that can recharge your body. The positive self-esteem as an action verb, that can recharge your mind. When you combine those things at the same time, then it gives your subconscious the evidence that you need. When you say, I'm going to make myself my favorite meal because I'm worth it, because I deserve treating myself well, then that's something that actually, without going there consciously, like I could take care of myself and not realize that as I'm doing it, or I could speak highly of myself and not act on it at that moment. But when you overlap those two activities, that's what I've found, is that it really starts to sink in at a very deep level. And so as people in the public space, when people do sometimes attack our character for one reason or another, then if we've been keeping up with our self-care and our self-esteem, that helps me, and I think theoretically can help others.
Yeah, I mean, it's also stuff like when people from within the community are attacking people who talk positively about the product, then it's really difficult to like argue that that we should bring more people in, because why would people ever want to go and put themselves out, put themselves in front of, why would people want to speak positively about a product when all that would do would get them like ridiculed from their existing from their existing community, and then potentially ridiculed from within the community that they adopted for not being, it's not a good look.
It's a domino effect, kind of, right?
Yep.
People staying away and not wanting drama. I mean, there are a lot of people who they would rather miss out on some gains that they're not sure of than to invest time researching, right? When they know that there's this crypto Twitter drama going on, or there's people who are getting so defensive or aggressive.
Right. And it's not even just that. There are people who will like potentially buy Hex, but then never talk about it because because that would alienate a lot of their existing following. And then it would also, potentially alienate the new people. Like the new people are not people who they want following them, because those people are not necessarily like nice,
Yeah. It's it speaks to the social psychology, and it's how can we, and that goes into marketing, but really it's something deeper, right? When it's learning how we can be respectful when we communicate, how we can be open-minded, open to people who are different, and again, I think it kind of goes to, we have all been people in the past who did not understand Hex. Maybe you got Hex when you first heard of it. Maybe it took a while, but to judge other people and to say hurtful things to them, or to get irritated or upset because they don't understand it as well as we do, they haven't had the time, they haven't had the support. A lot of us who are here, I think part of what you're saying is that the reason why we're here is because we did have a positive experience when we joined the community or when we interacted with it. And there's a lot of reasons why people are attracted to Hex. But I think that really, if you're going to stay, and if you're going to be an active community member, and if you're going to try to make the world a better place, I know lots of cryptos say that, and yet I don't see their technical specifications where it's helping people's mental health like Hex is, even emergently, right?
Yeah, definitely. So really, like, I just really wanted to, I don't know, emphasize or like drive home that like this really is coming from a place of experience. Like I've seen marginalized groups that potentially had better technology than what was existing get so nasty and toxic that like nobody else would participate in the group, and even to where people who were there left. And I don't want to see that happen here. And I do think that Hex is different because, it's a complete smart contract, but that element is important, and just like completely ignoring it is not useful. Like
Hex has a lot of the best attached to it. And but part of being the best community, I think, is not just being right, but being welcoming. And having an attitude or an ethos like self-improvement, being able to look at our social communications and to have that as an area where, many of us can commit to do better. I think, even myself, I don't find myself getting into, public tear downs or something like that. Right. But I think that there's always more I can do. There's always, and you're helping to remind me of how important this issue is, in not only onboarding people today, but ending up being the viral community that we're hoping for, right? The
Right.
virtuous,
We don't want to
inclusive.
give the impression, like from the outset, that being Hexican means being this like toxic maximalist person who doesn't accept anyone whose views or cryptocurrencies are different.
Well, one thing that helps me, I guess, to be patient and to be more positive about, you know, this whole issue is this idea that we can change our marketing materials to like meet people where they are. So my example is that, like, you know, I could, you know, use like, you know, hot chicks to like try to get people to watch my live stream about Hex Therapy, but it's not really consistent with the brand. But furthermore, even if it was effective, I think that Hex is such a powerful technology with so much potential for social adoption, for virality, that I would rather do extra work to get people to where I'm at with Hex instead of trying to change the pitch to attract them by going to where they're at. Does that make any sense?
Sure. So you're saying that your technique would be not to change your pitch, but to leave your pitch the same and to attract people who that resonates with.
To be, I guess, to not be taking any, I guess not shortcuts, but I think that it was tempting at one point to be thinking what will be popular instead of what would be best for the audience, right? So that's kind of a area where I like to explore and check myself. I find that there are certain activities I can do to stay balanced, to stay grounded. And one thing I really like to do is have, you know, kind of not endless ethical debates, but like periodic, right? Like to have periodic questioning myself. How, you know, how could I have been wrong about this or that? You know, like how could I improve, and what are the strategies that I'm using to, you know, increase the popularity of Hex, to increase the message going out.
But so that's the thing, is that like I am a positive, and like I have had a very positive impact on Hex's reputation. With like I've done a lot. When people say stuff like that I'm not a real Hexican, that is really troubling to me. Like because I'm not 100%, or because I talk about other things. Like,
well, we know that you're the shit, and you know that you're the shit.
Yeah, okay. So Toby says something. What about being driven out, shut out for asking valid questions, albeit possibly uncomfortable? Shouldn't fellow OGs at least be given the benefit of the doubt that their intentions are pure? This is really interesting, Toby, because when this whole discussion between you and I began, it was you being upset with me for on Joe's stream saying that we were about to experience divisions within the community because of the way that Pulse was changing things. And then I said, like, we should be prepared for there to be fractures and for someone in the community to, you know, potentially endorse something that doesn't turn out positively. And then you are the one who started with it, like you leveled an accusation against me as though that was like because I had some malicious plan. So if you want to talk about like deserving benefit of the doubt that someone's intentions are pure, like maybe dial it back to there.
I sometimes feel like when I go into other crypto community streams, or especially their live chats, I am aware that some communities, if I were to try to spread the good word of Hex or mention it in any way, that I would be instantly banned. And I experienced that myself. There's a really popular crypto show that happens in the middle of the day that's been going on for a while. where
That's why I
they
think
interviewed Three Arrows Capital, but they banned me, and it was the Three Arrows Capital guy that might even own Hex that was talking about, you know, yield farming, and so that, now that I'm like, you know, in this moment hearing and thinking about, you know, all the things that you know, and kind of what we've been talking about, it kind of made me feel like, oh, I'm somebody who's going into going into another country to like spread my religion, right? Like, and how do those people do it? Like,
so.
how do they put up with the adversity that they face?
You mean people in other marginalized communities?
Yeah, or it's on the tip of my tongue. What is it called when people go to another country and they try to onboard people to their religion?
Oh, mission work?
Yeah.
So I think usually when people go into other countries to try to like convert the people, there's already kind of a stronghold there. There's already at least some like base group. But I mean, like, I would say that like when I go into other crypto communities to communicate with them, I don't like immediately go in there with the intention of spreading the word of Hex, you know? Like,
Sure.
I go into
Okay.
communities like open-minded and like willing to learn about what it is that they're talking about. And then, you know, when there is some level of established rapport, then, you know, then you're able to say stuff without people automatically assuming that you're, you know, trying to like proselytize or put their thing down.
Yeah. So we should be the change that we wish to see in the world, maybe.
Yes.
Now, what happens if we have the opinion that something is not just not as good as Hex, but that it's actually harmful to people? Would you have different advice for people when?
No, actually, I think that I think that the same like rules would apply in potentially even more so. If you really think that there's you know, a community or a token or a coin that is like, you know, really a scam and really going to end up hurting people, and you really, really want to like save those people, right? I think that like the most effective way that you can convince people to change their mind is by trying to come to them, like not trying to immediately say like, hey, your thing is wrong and my thing is right, and like you got to get on this boat. It's to like ask them questions and try to be open-minded, like try to understand what it is that they're seeing in this, you know, in this token, and ask them questions that like maybe lead them to realizing that what they've invested in isn't that strong, or maybe isn't that strong. And then like once they sort of start to have like a trust for you, that's when you can start to implement your I don't know,
Socratic questioning is can be very effective. It's asking the right question for the person to lead themselves to the answer that you may think that they would benefit from, right?
Yes. And so what's really like interesting is that with a lot of these like other DeFi projects, they are doing a lot of the same things that like Hex is doing, or they're trying to do a lot of the same things. Like for instance, the like hourglass contracts, all the safe contracts, right? Like they're all attempting to incentivize people for long-term holding because of the tax on the transaction.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you have to lose 10% of your transaction, you're going to sell less of it until its value has increased a lot, right? Like that makes sense, because until you can afford to take that loss. The problem is that like there's no, like it essentially is trying to achieve the same thing that Hex achieves with the time locks and the interest, but it doesn't have those measures in place.
Yeah, I see the overlap there that you're pointing out, and I agree that that's a really good thing to point out, right? Because people who like SafeMoon, they may like Hex because they realize how similar it is, and that it's yet still a little bit different. And
better.
If we pique their curiosity, right? Curiosity killed the cat, but it also brought a lot of people to Hex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did. And I mean, I will say this, like I had someone from the Safe Moon community onto my stream, and there was like a lot of people in the community who were really, really upset about that, about me potentially like doing it. And I was like, but if we're gonna say that, you know, we're impartial, then that means that we talk to everyone, you know? And then also that I think that in some ways I handled that stream kind of badly. Like I could have been nicer or like softer, but I think that I was really, I don't know, trying to make sure that it seemed to, you know, our community that I wasn't chilling Safe Moon.
I think you did an excellent job with that interview. I think that you know, the person that you were interviewing really wasn't highlighting the kind of the, or they didn't really answer all the questions, right?
Well, that was the problem, is that my
that
questions, like I didn't really intend to be mean. I thought that he would have answers, and then when he didn't, it felt like I was hammering him, but that's
but
not
that
how.
was but that was the right way to do it. I think it was very well done. Anybody who does, right, like if we put out a poll, you know, I would say, you know, a lot, you know, like 90% of people would say, yeah, like best job ever. And then those 10 people, or the 10% of people, you know, they're the ones who are messaging that they had a problem with it.
Yeah, well, so I think like most of the people who had the problem with the Safe Moon people are, you know, the Safe Moon community. And now they, of course, say that I'm like a paid shill and that I was paid to spread FUD about Safe Moon. And I'm like, I've never done that. I've never done that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but I think that like I probably could have been more effective at like making it like, you know, being if I had been able to be like a little bit nicer, that maybe there would be more people who were then interested in Hex instead of immediately put off by it. Because, you know, the bitch who hammered the representative, you know, like is a advocate of Hex. So maybe that's a reason to not buy it. I don't know.
When people say mean things about you that aren't true, it doesn't really like roll off you.
I'm sensitive. I'm sensitive. And it hurts, like, you know, if people are really thinking those kinds of things, then I want to address them.
And well, that can sometimes take more energy than you have, probably, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because, like, you know, I've said before, this isn't like my only, you know, it's not like streaming is my job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm getting, my skin is getting a little thicker.
Yeah, because I see you as somebody who can be very confident, right?
Mm-hmm.
And very capable. And so, you know, it's easy for me to esteem you, right? And
Yeah.
And you know, it can be hard for me to remember, even like I teach this stuff, right? And sometimes I don't remember to esteem myself. And it's but I really think that you do an awesome job, that you're, you know, providing really a value to the entire crypto space that is very, very underserved. And so I have massive respect for you as well, because I know that you do put up with a lot of shit. And I think like the more we can, as a community, really support you and pump you up where you deserve to be, the better.
Thank you. I mean, I feel like I get like an overwhelming majority of support, but it's hard when it's all, you know, all leveled at the same time. Like that's when it kind of really like takes effect. It's not like one person, it's like attack after attack, and like that's when it's like I can't handle this.
Do you find that that your reaction, like, did it ever rewards, like, are people attention seeking sometimes they're like
I don't know. I
misinformed,
guess
sometimes they're attention seeking?
I think maybe I'm sure that it is that, but you know, in those moments it's like really hard to think like, oh, this person is just trying to, yeah, I don't know, seek attention. Just
Yeah.
trolling. but maybe that's something that I can do to, yeah, maybe that's something that I can do to like improve, is when someone starts saying that, then like I need to just go like, oh, this is not about me. This is about, you know, them wanting to gain something by, yeah, trying to hurt me, whatever. Yeah.
I have a theory about a strategy that Richard uses to deal with hate, because I think that he too is, you know, somebody who's sensitive in the sense that he puts his you know, life energy, right? Like he puts his all into the things that he cares about. And so when people come and attack the work that he does to help with you know, with aging, to help with you know, crypto, everything, right? Like he's doing things that are changing the world. And yet I imagine, you know, that he has a huge weight, and he kind of mentions it here and there, right? That the haters are this or that, but he oftentimes doesn't give it very much attention. I think that he has a new strategy. I think that his watches are bait for people. I think that he doesn't care about his watches. He pretends like he does, and that's like the thing that he uses as like a shield, as like an armor. And so, of course, people are going to go after the low-hanging fruit more than they are the things that aren't so in your face. And so when he has something in your face that's literally spinning and mesmerizing you, it's like, oh, you know, people come in, they're not going to spend all the time in the world to like understand really what he cares about the most. They're going to take the first information that they have, which is, oh, he cares about watches. And then for him, he doesn't get upset when people talk shit on him. And so for us, you know, it'd be like, if I was, you know, wearing a silly necklace or wearing something that I didn't like myself, and I was like, oh, like it seems like I liked it, then people could go after that, and it wouldn't hurt me. It would actually like make me laugh more or something.
Okay, so maybe get an object that like, but the thing is that I love my tiaras.
And that's like, yeah, that is perfect for you, and yeah. So it wouldn't be that, right? But I guess we'll both have to do some brainstorming for ourselves.
Yeah, think of something that I can use as armor.
Because I think it's a good strategy, whether he's thinking that or not. Like,
yeah. Yeah. Well, this was actually really helpful. Thanks, Maddie. I knew that if I reached out to you to therapize me, that would help me.
Well, awesome. And thank you so much for coming. I know it's helped me and the audience as well. And
wasn't there something that you wanted? Wasn't there something you were like, oh, I want to talk to you about that on the stream? And so you didn't tell me in the pre-call.
Definitely something.
Ah, you're breaking up.
Oh. And it's
are you there? Yeah, you do. You sound like a robot.
Turn off when streams. Yes.
Are you there? Yeah, you're just like, I can hear like portions of every few words. Can you guys hear him? I don't know. Is it just me that this is like not coming through, or is it for you guys too? Yeah, Maddie's a bot. All right, so it's just me here now. Hopefully he'll be back. Yeah, guys, thanks for showing up and for all the positive comments, both here and like in my DMs and in other groups. Like honestly, mostly everything, most of my experience in, you know, this community and with everyone here has been really amazing. It's just like when everything comes at one time, it can be a lot and it can be really hard. And I mean, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, Maddie's back. Yay. You're back.
Hey,
What?
did I miss myself sounding like a robot?
You did. Yeah. You're back.
That was for the haters. If you want to hate on me, I really care about not dropping my Wi-Fi. So go ahead and tear me up in the comments.
There you go.
Anyway, yeah, so what was it that I can think of one thing that I wanted to talk to you about. There was a stream a while back, and it was I think it was with Blaze, or it might have been with Joker.
Okay.
And you were explaining, I think, that people who check the price like all the time, like, whenever you're hanging out with them, like that kind of bothers you a little bit or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking, I think, about maybe the mental health effects some people have of being addicted to checking the price, this or that. And but I just wanted to tell you, like, one of my first ideas for how to integrate Hex Therapy with something more concrete or something more automatic for people, because I really think that programming mental health into money, like that's like the number one reason why I'm streaming. The reason I stream is because it's really cool to be able to talk to other people who are interested in crypto, but also because I think that, if we're going to have programmable money, and money is something that everybody needs, and mental health is something that everybody needs, then we might as well have those be connected and built on as much as possible. And so I've been working with a developer who has also become a good friend, goes by Future Us, and he's been on QuantGang and everything. So one of the things that we're thinking is that we might build a version of T-Share app, which is a fully functioning front end for Hex, where people can see actually the of future market supply as they're creating a new stake. And there's also a way to onboard people where it takes very little instruction, because it can tell the website, which is the app, so you don't download anything. It's read-only connected to MetaMask, just like go.hex.com. And go.tshare.app is where people can find the full wallet functionality with future market supply. But if people just go to tshare.app, it'll see whether they have MetaMask yet or not. And so if a new person goes there, it'll automatically take them to the right place, metamask.io. It'll get them set up with that. And then it'll give them like a badge for each achievement they get in terms of being able to buy Ethereum with your Apple Pay or your debit card in MetaMask. And so we have an easy way for that to pop up. We have an easy way for it to pop up to tell you that you need to go to Uniswap to do a swap, ETH for Hex, and then keep some of your ETH. And then you get an award for that to keep enough to do the start stake. And then people can make their first stake and really, not the whole speech that I normally give people when I'm onboarding them, which is like, don't go to the app store, like, to search for MetaMask, because I'm guiding you through with my voice and I can't see. You might download the wrong one and then you'll get hacked, and that's like a bad introduction, right? Instead of just saying, oh, go to metamask.io. What's that? Like, what's a .io? Anyway, like, there are a lot of like little things that we made a lot more smooth. But one thing I was thinking about adding on, and maybe not to the version that everybody uses, but if we had like an alternate version, would be like, if you're using tshare.app to check the price, then if you want to check the price, it makes you give yourself a compliment first before you do that.
I like it.
Because checking the price is a rewarding activity, oftentimes, or it could be something that affects people's mood the other way. Them having, worked on their self-esteem, even if it's like scrolling through a menu, like, of positive attributes that you could identify with, like, giving people that boost, it could put them in the right emotional state to not only benefit to not only be able to check the price in a more healthy way, but also, it would actually condition people to esteem themselves. I think if the price was going up more than it was going down, then people would get that dopamine boost after they've done a positive behavior, which is not just checking the price.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's good. I like it.
Cool.
I like it.
So yeah, like having conversations like these really help me to imagine ways that we can program mental health into money and pay our future selves, it not just with Hex, but with our behaviors now that lead to more health. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. This was really helpful. Thanks, Maddie. Thank you, everyone.
Absolutely. So everybody go ahead and do you want to share your links or promote anything?
Yeah, so I stream twice a week on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific on Discourse Syndicate Network. And then across social media, I'm NerdGirl007 with no vowels.
Awesome. And I love your Building Bridges show. I love all the different things that you're involved in. You got your new intro, like your 2-second intro that has the building bridges going off. That's really cool.
Someone from my work made that for me. It was really nice. Like Jack Hartley, actually. So thanks, Jack.
Nice. And people can find me at maddieall.in, which is all my links. And so thanks everybody for coming out to Hex Therapy Live. Remember to tell all the streamers in the Hex community how much you appreciate them, to use an attitude of inclusiveness, to use decoy things that you care about in order to have the hate sting a little bit less. And remember to keep taking care of yourselves and esteeming yourselves. And that hopefully will help everyone to see us modeling the right behavior that we wish to see in the world. So thanks for coming out, and stake wisely, my friends.
Bye, everyone.